Welcome back, horror fans, cinephiles, and giallo enthusiasts. This is Tanner Leeser, your host for all things giallo, here on The King in Giallo. Our next stop on our journey through giallo cinema is the only giallo film from Renato Polselli, Delirium, released on July 5th, 1972. Well, let's waste no time and get right into it. Here is Delirium Overview. Delirium, or in Italian, Delirio caldo, which translates as hot delirium, is an Italian production. The film is directed by Renato Polselli, billed as Ralph Brown, who also wrote it. Music is composed by Gianfranco Reverberi. The cast includes Mickey Hargitay as Herbert Lyutak, Rita Calderoni as Marzia Lyutak, Raul Lovecchio, billed as just Raul, as Inspector Edwards, Christa Barrymore as Joaquine, and Christina Perrier as Lolel. The plot follows Dr. Herbert Lyutak, a well-regarded criminal psychologist who regularly works with the police on complex investigations. But behind his polished exterior lies a disturbed mind. He's a violent sexual predator whose private compulsions are escalating beyond his control. After brutally murdering a young woman in a public park, suspicion briefly falls on him, but his reputation and relationship with the force cloud judgment. Inspector Edwards refuses to believe Lyutak could be involved, especially after another killing takes place while Lyutak is in custody. With his innocence seemingly confirmed, he's set free, and the cycle of violence continues. There's really nothing quite like a Renato Polselli film. Whether that's a compliment or a warning depends on your tolerance for cinematic chaos, but one thing is certain: Polselli had a vision, and it was all his own. Delirium, 1972, is one of his most outrageous efforts, a fever dream of a film that throws conventional logic to the wind and commits fully to its own warped energy. Everything in Delirium is pitched at a level of constant hysteria. The dialogue is stilted, the acting wildly uneven, and the bouncy, inappropriately upbeat score feels like it was dropped in from another movie entirely. Yet, somehow, this discordant mix creates a kind of hypnotic rhythm that persists throughout the film's overlong running time. From the very first shot, Dr. Lyutak silently ogling a young girl in a short skirt, it's clear we're entering sleazier, stranger territory than most gialli dare to explore. The film then leans harder into that perversion as Lyutak descends into sadomasochism, laments his impotence, and seeks out stimulation in every corner but his own bedroom, where his beautiful wife Marzia, whom he claims to love too deeply to touch, waits in vain. The characters drift through the film like sleepwalkers, alternating between blank detachment in the first half and full-blown operatic excess in the final act. They don't behave like real people, and that's by design. Polselli crafts a deliberately surreal tone that's more about psychological texture than plausibility. Whether that's successful or just baffling is up for debate, but the intent is unmistakable. For its US release, Delirium was re-edited to include a new framing device aimed at making the film's chaos more digestible to American and international audiences. Polselli was asked to rework the story for export, and in this alternate cut, Dr. Lyutak is no longer simply a perverse psychiatrist. He's reimagined as a Vietnam War veteran suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. This added backstory attempts to justify his violent impulses and lends a thin psychological rationale to the film's erratic tone. The hope was that imposing this angle would give the film a more coherent structure and help it play more traditionally abroad. The most significant addition in the US cut is a series of newly filmed Vietnam flashbacks, inserted to support the revised narrative that paints Dr. Lyutak as a traumatized veteran. Also a notable inclusion during the murder scene in the park, where we see the killer wearing a creepy mask. The Vietnam sequences, however, are jarringly out of step with the rest of the film, shot with a noticeably different visual texture and tone, and often featuring stock footage or poorly staged jungle skirmishes. Rather than grounding the film, they only heighten its incoherence. Intended to provide psychological motivation for Lyutak's sadism, the flashbacks instead come off as cheap, clumsy, and disconnected from the main story. Their abrupt insertion into the existing edit disrupts the already fragile pacing, and instead of clarifying anything, they only add another surreal layer to an already unhinged experience. While the core footage remains largely intact, the restructuring shifts the narrative context and slightly softens some of the original sleazier implications. It doesn't do much to make the film any less bizarre, but it does offer a superficial framework for viewers seeking order in the madness. There are many differences between the two edits, but most agree the Italian version is superior for its raw intensity, unfiltered descent into madness, and unapologetic commitment to Poselli's deranged vision. Poselli may not be known for visual precision, but his films are undeniably unified in tone and aesthetic. His love for jarring camera work, frantic editing, and contrast between refined settings and depraved behavior is fully on display here. Just like in his other works, characters move between catatonic stupor and full emotional meltdown with little warning. While the film is technically competent across the board, Gianfranco Reverberi's score, cheerfully at odds with the content, somehow becomes effective by working against the imagery rather than supporting it. For fans of so bad it's good cinema, Delirium offers plenty of highlights. One standout is the painfully awkward sequence in which Lyutak tries and fails to initiate intimacy with Marzia. It begins with him giving her a belated anniversary card, announcing he's a successful scientist but a failure as a man, and ends in a series of humiliating bedroom games meant to ignite his desire. Marzia insists she still loves him. He responds by trying out BDSM techniques like a desperate lab experiment. The whole thing is so overwrought and illogical that it becomes unintentionally hilarious. Even more baffling is how the police inspector, despite Lyutak's clearly unstable behavior, continues to defend him throughout the film. The performances range from wooden to outright bizarre. Miki Hargitay, playing Lyutak, pulls a range of distorted facial expressions, but never once is convincing as a psychiatrist. Born in Budapest in 1926, Hargitay rose to fame as a champion bodybuilder, which caught the attention of Mae West, who cast him in her nightclub act. It was there he met Jane Mansfield, whom he married in 1958. They divorced in 1964. Mansfield helped launch his film career, beginning with a small role in Frank Tashlin's Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter? 1957. Uncomfortable with his accent, Hargitay found European cinema more accommodating, where his voice could be dubbed. He appeared in peplum films like Revenge of the Gladiators, 1964, spaghetti westerns such as Chimango, 1967, and horror titles like Lady Frankenstein, 1971. His most infamous role was as the sadistic Crimson Executioner in The Bloody Pit of Horror, 1965, directed by Massimo Pupillo. After Delirium, he worked with Poselli once more on the even more insane The Reincarnation of Isabel, 1973. That would be his final film until a 2003 guest appearance on Law & Order SVU alongside his daughter, actress Mariska Hargitay. He passed away in 2008. Rita Calderoni plays Marzia, nude frequently, convincing rarely. Her theatrical delivery clashes with the material, but her presence is memorable. Born in 1951, she made her screen debut in Elio Petri's eerie art horror film A Quiet Place in the Country, 1968, a pseudo-proto-giallo. Here's my review for that movie. With striking looks and a willingness to perform in risque material, she became a regular in Eurocult cinema and caught Poselli's eye for just that reason. She appeared again in The Truth According to Satan, 1972, and The Reincarnation of Isabel, 1973, both directed by Poselli. Her career tapered off in the early 1980s, and she is believed to have left the industry to lead a private life. Renato Polselli himself remains one of the most polarizing figures in Italian genre cinema. A director as revered by cult devotees as he is dismissed by critics. His legacy bears some resemblance to that of Spain's Jus Franco. Born in 1922, Polselli began directing in 1952 and first gained attention with The Vampire and the Ballerina, 1960, followed by the lesser-known The Vampire of the Opera, 1964. He flirted with the giallo formula when he co-wrote Psych Out for Murder, 1969, directed by Rossano Brazzi. And here's my review for that movie. As a director, Poselli delivered other near-gialli, including The Truth According to Satan, 1972, which leans more toward black comedy than murder mystery, and Mania, 1974, a reportedly horror-leaning project now considered lost. His final film as a director was released in 1984, and his last credit came in 1996 as the screenwriter for the borderline giallo Intimate Crimes. He passed away in 2006. In the end, Delirium is less a traditional giallo than a full-blown psychosexual breakdown captured on film. It plays by its own warped set of rules, dragging the viewer through sleaze, surrealism, and screaming melodrama with complete conviction. Whether you see it as a trash masterpiece or a cinematic car crash, there's no denying its singularity. For fans of bizarre, off-the-rails Eurocult cinema, especially those with a taste for the unhinged, it offers an experience like no other. But for anyone seeking logic, restraint, or genre polish, Poselli's world is one best admired from a safe distance. Thank you for watching this overview video. As of the time of recording this, Delirium can be found on Plex and Amazon Prime Video. Stay tuned for my unscripted movie review for Delirium, as well as the Jolly Tally. Comment your predictions for the AZ score for the movie and the final Jolly Tally score. Thank you very much for your continued support. This is Tanner Leeser for The King in Giallo, and if nothing else, I'll see you next time.
Là, ispettore! No, fermo! Fermo! Dio mio! Dio l'ho uccisa!